Hey, DeRacers. So today what we wanted to do was to slow down and just take a moment. We obviously know about all the stuff that DeRace is building. There's a lot of activity with the builder community, but we wanted to slow down and appreciate the player and the role of the player because I mean, realistically, it's a game. We're building a game, a Web3 game that this industry is new. Everything is new, and like as we're trying to do this, the player activity and the criticisms of the player, all of that is incredibly valuable, and it helps us mold what we're trying to build and to get to something glorious.
Yeah, it's supposed to be something that we're taking part in together, right? Like even though you, the individual, get to play the game, and you, the individual, can find ways to have fun doing that. We also want to make sure that there's a sense of building of actually being a part of something as it's being birthed and growing.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research before this just to look up some numbers. And the Kentucky Derby, the most popular of all horse racing events, that is now approaching 150 years old. And the very, very first Kentucky Derby only attracted around 10,000 people. And in the first 25 years, there was a lot of criticisms, a lot of modifiers before it got locked into a specific event. In modern day, 150,000 people go to it, and 16 million people watch this thing every single year. So it obviously didn't get built overnight. It has grown a lot, but the athletes and the competitors in that, their opinions on the matter was very valuable in helping craft what it turned out to be.
Yeah, I think events, large scale events, is obviously kind of the pinnacle of what we're shooting for in this space, right? It's why we're taking part. There's going to be some in the community that only want to take part in large stake events. There's
Mhm.
others that want to find other ways to have fun, right? There, when you think about something like the Kentucky Derby, you can be a spectator, you can be someone just sitting at home enjoying it, you can get together with friends and enjoy it, and you can have a horse in the event. There's so many different people that can take part in a large event, and that's kind of what we're looking at here, is this canopy of varying types of people that are going to be in the space as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And like depending on who you are or what you want to be in this game, you got to help find or craft or to offer suggestions of what's going to yield an event that you personally are going to like the most. Because I could tell you from my perspective, I like the bigger team events. I like the ones where you have 20 plus horses that you're strategically using and you have to study them and rank them in priority. And then you're trying to block other teams and you're doing these other events. I like team sports. So
Mhm.
I want to craft and host larger team events where that can happen. But I could understand if somebody only has 3 or 4 horses and they're not fully comfortable expanding or networking just yet, that they might want to benefit from a very small event. And if that's what you're interested in doing and that you don't feel like those are present, then speak up. But no matter what, you need to get involved a bit more, communicate more, talk to us, talk to Dirk Army. SMR is going to be hosting their Grand Prix coming soon. So there's going to
Mhm.
be so many new opportunities where the scoring models are different, Gen 1 versus Gen Zeros,
Yep.
unraced versus raced. I mean, there's so much growing.
Yeah, the community, really, the community space in general is developing a lot of different events, and we call them events largely because it's the bringing together of groups of people, right? It's not the individual racing, though you can do that. You can spend your Saturday night going and throwing your horse into a handful of races and really be excited about that as well. What we're talking about here is more of the getting involved outside of the slash races URL of DeRace, and instead taking part in something that's larger than yourself. I remember in past seasons when we had team events, there were times where my horses weren't running at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to rely on teammates to help carry our team at times. And then there were moments where I could step in and my horse could actually play a role that was beneficial to the team as a whole. If
Yep.
I was just looking at that event and thinking, well, shoot, I can't get involved, my horse isn't good enough, it's like, yeah, you wouldn't take part. So you need to find ways to get yourself connected into the community space, because these events that are starting to come out more and more with new development, we've got invite only races and even tournaments coming soon. Features that DeRace has been working on for a while. We're still early. It's still
Yep.
beta, right? Like there's so much that can be developed and kind of adapted out of what we already currently have, that each time you come to, let's say, the Dirk Army space, an event's going to evolve. The next season's going to be a little bit different, a little bit better. I mean, you were talking about team events being popular. I would agree that should be where the focus is for me personally as well. But the Gen 1, the unraced tournament that we're in the middle of right now, is honestly one of the funnest things I've done in a while. And my horses are horrible. So like I'm just enjoying the fact that we've got a group of people that are all coming together to compete on so many different tracks, so many different races. I mean, between my multiple horses, I've probably done 4,000 race entries or something like that. It's unreal. And I'm losing money, but I look at all the people that are having success in it, and I think that's where it's at. That's where you should get amped up and excited about an event, is you competing against other people, but also competing with people.
Yep, agreed. Like when I was younger and more able-bodied, I was playing soccer a lot, and going to large fields where they would have pickup games were a lot of fun. And there would be 40, 50 people, and we would all collectively figure out, like, how do we break up teams, how we're going to do this, how we're going to compete. And I feel like that's very similar to what we're doing here. We're all showing up at the table with our NFTs, and we're trying to create the game. So every single person, every single desire that you have is totally valid. And like, we're trying to come up with the classification so that way people that came to this space with an asset that's not that fast, then at least then we could find a pocket for you to play, because the goal is fun. I wanted to share this. I saw this just moments ago where Alex Becker tweeted this, talking about the NFT games in comparison to some of the ones that existed, where like Clash of Clans generating $10 billion of revenue, where it's like none of these games are assets where the individuals hold them. This is purely because it's entertainment. So as we create entertainment as players, as part of this community, it is going to be advantageous to your return on your investment. So we've talked about the importance of returns on investments in previous videos, but to create something that's fun is going to attract more people to play. It's going to attract more people to watch. And as we do that, that's just, it's only going to be good for all of us.
Yeah, the idea of having fun in a space while also potentially seeing an ROI is a great combination, but it shouldn't be all about ROI. For some it is. I get that. And I recognize that there's a desire to have one, but a return, the idea of a return can be pure excitement.
Yeah.
It can be that you just want to see your name at the top of a leaderboard somewhere, right? Like, that's what's so cool about the Unraced Gen 1 tourney right now. Seeing your name at the top of that list, even if it doesn't translate to future success, is part of the fun. Having more permanent leaderboards and things where we have ongoing events where you can look back and be like, I won that one, but I lost this one. Like, that's what it's all about. And when you think about the amount of funds and money that goes into some of these games, like you were just showing, this space has so much potential. You talk about the idea of it being the Kentucky Derby, right, in the future, but we're talking about a bunch of friends just hanging out in someone's backyard watching their horses run around a pasture. Like, that's where we're at right now. And there's still fun to be had even just doing that. I mean, simple betting on a backyard track is not as fun maybe, but it can sure be a lot of fun in the moment.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, make friends, make enemies. I love both. I love watching both take place on Discord, where people are smack talking and rivalries are forming, because it's like the same thing happens in real life sports, where it's fun. It's good to have good and bad. It's good to have enemies and heroes. And as we do this more and more, it's just going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
I want to switch over to, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've got a lot of stuff that DeRace is developing right now that's going to help us kind of create those rivalries and alignments, right? Like, we've got clubs that are going to start to form and be able to have a space in the DeRace site. So I know you're showing the jockeys here. Like, this is one of the coolest things that we've got coming. And if this is done right, there's a lot of potential for some fun to be had.
Yeah, and like, I know there's obviously a lot of criticism about some of the changes that have taken place. Some people really hate equipment. Now, of course, it's like, we got to give credit when credit's due. There's a lot of elements to this which I think are still really great. I think that there could have been done better, or I think there's room for improvement. But once you get to a level 80 horse and you know your horse really well, I like the ability to dial it in and try to trim out things that are no longer good. When jockeys come bonding, we're starting to learn more about what speed and stamina do to the horses. That test is still ongoing, but we have no idea what jockeys are going to do yet. And like, I can guess, but until we research that. But the thing that I'm most excited by is the day that DeRace opens it up with clubs, which we see in the roadmap is coming. I really hope that we can brand your club so that way your jockeys look like that.
Yeah.
Because to see DE versus Fash, I would love to see every single battle and to be able to see that. And if you're a new player and you don't have any branding and you're just out there as a free agent, this could be a great mechanism for you to then be able to be recruited and to be brought into the elements where it's a lot more fun. But there's so much coming where we're talking about silks, we're talking about club management, leaderboards, and those other things that DeRace is bringing out. I think it's going to be quite entertaining.
Yeah, and there's a couple different ways to look at things like the silk side of it. If we're talking about branding, there's the internal club dynamic where you have branding where I want to see for us the DE on the jockey's silks, right? But there's also another side to this, which is kind of a monetization element as we grow this, as we become a real sport. If your goal is to head towards something as fancy as a digital Kentucky Derby, you have to have outside sponsorship. And one of the ways that you do that is you provide a space in game for them to have branding of their own. So if in the future we've got silks that has, sleeves, it has chest imprints, whatever we're going to be having, you can have team, you can have outside sponsorship, you can have all sorts of stuff that shows up on elements like that in the game.